So Francis Ngannou lately has been really pushing for the Jon Jones fight. I feel like this is the fight that we all want. Obviously, we want to see Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. I believe that's happening in International Fight Week. However, we're gonna talk about the entire Francis Ngannou saga, and that before we do, if you like the video, subscribe. It's my usual thing. Um, yeah. So, with Francis Ngannou calling out Jon Jones multiple times, you know, Francis Ngannou left with the title. He is still the lineal heavyweight champion, right? Then he goes into boxing. A lot of people thought he beat Tyson Fury, myself included, and then he got knocked out by Anthony Joshua. But in that time, he made 30 million guaranteed on top of pay-per-view. He has multiple other endorsements. Along with, he made an extra 8 mil post pay-per-view from Renan Ferreira, and he was guaranteed 8 mil for his next fight. He only has one more fight left on his deal. Jon Jones has, I think, 6 fights left on his deal because he signed in 2023. He fought Cyril Gahn. He fought Stipe. So you had Tom, you had Pereira, you had Francis. That's 5 of 8. And I truly believe that Jon Jones, being the competitor he is, he wants to have the heavyweight title defense record. Now, I kind of think that Tom Aspinall will break it, or somebody who comes along will eventually break it. As far as the light heavyweight record goes, there's no fucking shot anybody comes close to his heavyweight streak. Unless, like Alex Pereira, it stays until he's like 45 or something, and he has 3 fights a year. He's not gonna come close to that. But with Francis Ngannou, his rise was incredible. The only losses he had were to Stipe Miocic early on in his career, his very first title defense, and then he had that very weird fight with Derek Lewis where nothing fucking happened because they were too scared to get knocked out by each other. After that, though, Francis Ngannou had a comeback win against Cyril Gahn, and we already went over what he did after that. Like, with Jon Jones, like, his resume speaks for himself. Whether you're the biggest hater of Jon Jones or the biggest fan, you can say what you want about, oh, everybody fought at middleweight. They still fought for the title at 205. Like, that's such a fucking stupid argument. Like, if somebody makes a weight during that weight class, you want to talk about weight bullying? Alex Pereira and John Marketive to beat Nurmagomedov. Basically, every champion, every fighter now is cutting 20 to 30 pounds fighting in a weight class they probably shouldn't be. And then you have somebody like Jon Jones who fought at 205. He he was announced from 205. There's no way he'll make middleweight. But then he moves up to heavyweight. He gets a bit chunkier. Um, he still is insanely athletic for a heavyweight. We saw that in the still fight, which I just rewatched that still fight, and I watched the Machida fight right before I recorded this. But like, say Jon Jones ends his career with wins over Tom Aspinall, Alex Pereira, and Francis. he wants to fight Derek Lewis and he wants to fight other contenders too. Like, this guy's resume, and we can talk about the steroid use, we can talk about everything else in that in Jon Jones's career that has occurred. Again, oh yeah, I'm gonna say this. When it comes to an athlete, I don't cheer for them because I think they're a moral person. I'm cheering for them for their performance inside the cage, right? But you know, Francis has transcended MMA. He is a superstar now. He's in movies. He does so many interviews. Everybody knows his name, and I think that Francis Ngannou versus Jon Jones is the biggest heavyweight fight. I feel like the absolute biggest fight though will be Francis Ngannou versus Alex Pereira. Both of them kind of the same story. Grew up in a rough life. Alex Pereira was an alcoholic as a child. He worked at a mechanic shop and was only paid in alcohol. And then we know Francis Ngannou grew up in sand mines as a slave, swam across the ocean multiple times because he got caught, made his way to Paris, wanted to do boxing, did MMA for a few years, gone to the UFC, and the rest is history, right? I repeat that because, like, the reason I love MMA, right, is beyond the product, beyond the fights, it's storytelling. I grew up as maybe most of you, a WWE fan. WWE is scripted, however, it tells a story. Every UFC fight tells a story. You know, Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic was the story of the greatest light heavyweight of all time versus the greatest heavyweight of all time. 2 days. Now, Stipe versus Jon Jones was always a dream of mine, right? Like, ever since, I would say, the first Stipe Miocic fight, or Francis Ngannou fight that Stipe had won, I wanted to see, let me just move this over, there we go. Hopefully that's better. I wanted to see, Stipe versus Jon Jones for a long time. Now, when we got it, we got a retired Stipe who did not look good, very slow. You remember in the corners when he exhaled very, very deeply like an old man. But again, that's him fighting Jon Jones. And Jon Jones brings the skills of a light heavyweight to heavyweight. Tom Aspinall has those skills, Francis Ngannou has those skills. But like, if Jon Jones retires, being the greatest light heavyweight of all time, well, like I said, I really do not see anybody getting that title defense record anytime soon in any division, especially light heavyweight. Maybe if Alex Pereira had a couple more years left in his career, I could see that happening. Who knows, he might stay for, up until his mid-40s, and that he definitely could. His conditioning is unreal. Again, he comes from a kickboxing background. Well, like, back to Francis versus Jon Jones. Like, these two You can throw in Tom Aspinall, like I said. These two are the clear best heavyweights in the world. And the UFC markets itself as the best on best. Right? If they really hold a grudge for Francis Ngannou and his team for making a business decision that was right for them, again, Dana White could have co-promoted those fights. He did it with Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. And, like, call it a gimmick fight, all you want. Francis versus Tyson Fury was different than Floyd Mayweather versus McGregor. Floyd Mayweather is the greatest boxer of all time. One of them. My opinion, Mike Tyson is the greatest of all time. I think prime Mike Tyson beats any boxer any time. But especially if Costumaro is in his corner. Again, my opinion, I think it would have remained undefeated had Costumaro been around his entire career. I don't even think he would have went to jail, but then again, that case is a bit weird. Alright, say Francis can come back to the UFC and shock the world in beating Jon Jones. Right? That would mean that Francis Ngannou beat the best heavyweight, the greatest of all time. You know Francis ran through everybody. But if we don't get this fight, man, it'll be a shame. You gotta put personal grudges aside when it comes to business. And Francis versus Jon Jones is the pinnacle of heavyweight fights right now. It would be a shame if we never get to see it, you know. I wish we got, like I said, I wish we got this Stipe fight sooner, but I mean, it would be, I don't know how to explain it, because the way I view this sport is, you know, two guys train their entire lives. So a lot of these guys are in karate, jiu-jitsu by the age of fucking 3, right? Imagine Francis Ngannou comes back, beats Jon Jones, beats Tom Aspinall. His story is already movie worthy. If he ends off with wins over Jon Jones, wins over Tom Aspinall, Pavlovich, if you want to throw him in there, which I'm not sure about that one. Like, I cannot explain to you, like, how emotional I'd get seeing Francis versus Jon Jones. I know that sounds, you know, very, very weird in that point. Dude, the reason I love MMA over every other sport, hockey, football, basketball, you name any other sport, is like, you have your team, but the sport is two people get locked in a cage and put everything on the line. You take whatever your opponent has done in their career. If Francis beats Jon Jones, that means he beat the guy that beat DC twice. I know the other fight was overturned. He beat Gustafsson twice. Who Gustafsson, I really believe that Alexander Gustafsson probably would have been champion had DC and Jon Jones not exist. DC would probably be the greatest of all the right there. UFC 200, the fight that never happened. Right? I think I'm kind of going in circles, but like, I feel like you guys get my point. I think the UFC needs to put their personal grudges aside and make the fight. We want Francis back. I don't think there's a single person that can logically say Francis made the wrong decision leaving the UFC. Even though he lost both his boxing fights, like I said, generational wealth. Generational wealth. But I'm gonna rambling on and on. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about Francis coming back and fighting Jones? And do you see it like me, where this fight will be the storybook ending for both Francis Ngannou and Jon Jones, whoever wins the fight? But let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, and yeah, later.